Hello and welcome everyone to the Great Womb Awakening, where women across the globe are waking up to the undeniable truth that the female body is the most powerful shamanic tool on the planet. And every woman can harness the energies of change and expansion present at this time to ground a new vision that can serve the next 7 generations and beyond. And not only that, but women can harness this unprecedented power that lives within their female bodies and unleash that power to create global change at a level never before seen on this planet. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute, and we're here today with Linda Starwolf. Starwolf is the spiritual granddaughter of the late Seneca Wolf Clan elder, grandmother Twyla Niche, and she's a visionary teacher and shamanic guide to thousands. Her love for the earth inspired her to write 8 shamanic books and give birth to the shamanic breathwork process, ushering in a new paradigm of change. She's the founder and director of Venus Rising Association for Transformation and the Venus Rising University. Starwolf is a change agent. She's dedicated to assisting others to release dysfunctional patterns and radically transform their lives. Those who know her intimately see her as a powerful force of nature and a catalyst for accelerated consciousness. And so Starwolf is here today. I'm so excited to have her. And she's going to speak with us about how to awaken our wombs through using shamanic breath work. So Starwolf, how would you like to dive in today? Can you share with us a little bit about what shamanic breath work is?
I'll be happy to do so. Before we do that, I know that you and I have set ceremonial space, and I'd like to extend that to those who are tuning in with us and to bring forth a symbol, if you will, of the womb, and to bring forth a little cauldron that I have here that I've used for many years, that actually was a bowl that came from my grandmother. I don't know that she would have thought of it as a cauldron. I think she probably had some plastic flowers in it, although she was pretty shamanic. But anyway, I'd like to bring forth this cauldron that has held many people's prayers and tears. And as a cauldron is a womb where we can burn things, where we can transform things through fire. And so with that, I'm just going to light a little bit of the sage that's in here. And then I always ask what wants to come and be with us in ceremony. And so everything chooses, it speaks to me. Everything talks to me. And also what wanted to come is the blue heron. And I want to call the blue heron energy in. And this was a bird that Grandmother Twyla was very, very connected to. And she said that it connected the energies of the blue star, of the great mystery, and the star system, Sirius, here, and it connected it to the sacred feminine and to the waters, because this bird, the heron, can fly and then can go into the water and then walk onto the earth. And that this was the shamanic bird, if you will, that could help us on our journey from the sky and to our own bodies and to the waters.
Yes.
So I'm just going to send some of this smudge out to all those who are tuning in, and allow it to encircle your whole energy field. And take a big sniff. See if you can smell it. And let it come in and give you a spiritual bath. And as you're letting it waft over your body and over your field and giving you a bath, and you're taking it into your senses, into the smell, and yes, you can smell it energetically and see it. Let it also now go down. Let it go down to your yoni, down to the opening of your sacred portal, that place that goes in between the worlds for all human beings. All human beings are born from this place.
Mhm.
Every single one of them. Not a one of them got here otherwise.
Right.
They all came through this opening. So send some energy through that opening. For those of you who even want to remove some of your clothing, you can do that to open that energy. We're amongst girlfriends here. And send that energy up into your womb space. And bless it and honor it and thank it. Thank this beautiful part of yourself for giving birth to whatever you give birth to every day in your life. And just bless that part of yourself and let that energy now flow into your heart. And as they say where I come from in Kentucky, bless your heart. Bless your heart, because your heart is also a womb, and it informs that second chakra. It informs the lower chakras with heart wisdom. I say that the heart gives the womb a womb with a view.
That's beautiful.
The view from the heart and the love and the honoring and the sacred connection, and to knowing that this part of you is always sacred, whether you've abused it or someone else has, or both. And then we're going to take this energy up to our higher mind. We're going to take it up to our second chakra, through the fourth, through the sixth. And this is another womb. The third eye is also a womb. It looks like a womb. And its opening looks like the vaginal opening. And open your third eye, your higher mind, and your intuitive wisdom to the power and creativity of your womb. And then with a deep breath, bringing in the breath, sending the breath up, down, spiraling it through your body, and out. Allowing all of these energies to clear you now and to be unified, so that your womb can see, can sense, and can feel. And now take a deep breath. Exhale fully and come fully back and into our sacred ceremony together. And your womb will thank you for connecting you to all parts of yourself, so that you can see more clearly and honor her more clearly.
Thank you, Star Wolf. That was beautiful. Excuse me. So talk to us a little
Too
bit.
much smudge.
Yeah, probably.
There's a clearing already happening there. And it is a good idea during this time when we're together to have water close by, because a lot comes up to be cleared in this experience. It's an energetic experience.
It certainly is. So what would you like to teach us about shamanic breath work and how it helps support a deeper awakening connection to our womb wisdom?
Well, the first thing I think that's important to say is that our womb has its own wisdom. You've said that. But it has its own mind. It has its own heart. and it has its own energetic force. And this womb is connected through our lineages, back through our bloodline lineages. My bloodline lineages go back to more like Iceland and Scotland and Ireland, to more Celtic lineages. And I've studied shamanism around the world. And I know that all beings, all human beings, come from lost tribes. So all of us, everyone, has a lineage of tribalness. Every one of us at some point, are in our bloodline lineage, had ancestors, grandmothers and grandfathers, but today we'll focus on the grandmothers, who were shamans or medicine women or curanderos, or whatever the term was in that culture, healers, seers, mystics, prophets, whatever. And if you go back into that understanding of knowing that we all have within our DNA, within our genealogy, with our history and her story, that we all have a lineage to shamanic wisdom. That's the first thing that we need to know.
Mhm.
No matter how far we've gotten or removed or cut off from that, we all had it through our ancestors millennia ago.
Mhm.
And it's still within us at a biochemical, genealogy, biochemistry level. We're hardwired to be shamanic.
Right.
And we are water, earth, fire, and air,
Mhm.
animated by the great mystery and the great mother.
Mhm.
So this is the premise that we begin with. We start there,
Mhm.
that we already know, our wombs already know how to do everything they need to do, how to uh, purify themselves, how to cleanse themselves, how to be fertile, how to um, hold space for every human being that passes through this earth and nurture them and to support them all the way through
Mhm.
from prior conception, because if they were the womb was making itself its nest,
Mhm.
prior, like the bird building its nest, or the
Right.
the squirrel, but
Mhm.
then creating that womb space and how to gestate, and then when it's the appropriate timing, to bring that force to propel that energy out into the world. So the process of the womb's energy and its understanding for men, women, children, for everyone, is shamanic, of how to give die each month until it's time to create the birthing energy, and then when it's full term, to give full on life force energy and bring life onto this planet of a whole new being into
Mhm.
this planet. Now, when we just take that into awareness,
Mhm.
all of a sudden there's a lot more respect for the womb.
Right. It's a big
Is a
deal.
magician. It's a very big deal. It's the biggest deal there is, or there wouldn't be a deal. There
Right.
would be no deal. There'd be no deal at all without
Right.
her. Okay, let's just get clear about that.
Mhm.
I started to say it, but God in the masculine form, although I see it as equal and revered it in so many ways, would just be sitting around saying by himself.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get real about that. Have a little sense of humor about it and a little respect, can we?
Right?
Have a little respect. And,
Mhm.
Aretha Franklin, RSPCT.
Mhm.
What that means to me, give me some respect. So the
Yeah.
womb is to be respected. So she has her shamanic ways, and
Mhm.
she knows that in order to get a baby born, and to do that in the way with the least amount of pain and the most amount of energy to help propel this child into the earth,
Mhm.
is to oxygenate that child. So,
Yeah.
what do women naturally do when they start to go into full on labor? Until they're either sedated or put under or medicated or told to calm down or put in unnatural positions to give birth or any of those kinds of things, a woman left on her own, whether she's a female dog or a cow or a bird or a woman, will breathe.
Right. Wow.
She will be breathing like, and it'll increase and it'll increase. And then she might even go, and
Mhm.
then she push, whew, whew,
Mhm.
sounds, moans, groans, tones. Shamanic breath work was birthed by the womb.
Mhm.
It
Wow.
was birthed from the first child that was born through the womb. Shamanic breath work was there
Mhm.
and was the force that helped bring that child into being.
Mhm.
And when that child came out and was born, the first task it had as a human being was to take its first breath. And out it came with a howl or a smile or a growl, like, "Wah!"
Mhm.
Whatever. I'm here.
Right?
Okay. And that happens. Sound can't happen without that breath. It'd be, ah, it can't.
Mhm.
So I would say that shamanic breath work is pretty instrumental
Mhm. Mhm.
anytime we want to give birth to something new in our life
Mhm.
and to use womb wisdom that's ours. Our birthright is women,
Mhm.
okay, this time around.
Right?
To use our birthright to give birth to our hopes and dreams and to the world around us. We are responsible for helping to create, responsible
Mhm.
to create the changes that we're ready for right now.
Right. Absolutely. Why do you think it's important for women to heal the disconnection between their wombs? Obviously, after what you've just said, it makes a lot of sense. But can you speak into that a little bit?
I would love to speak into that. Kathy, it's um, so obvious once we start waking up and can feel our womb energy again. What has happened is how we have had it severed.
Mhm.
When you sever, it's a genocide. It's a genocide. It really is. When one's power has been severed, there is a disillusionment
Mhm.
and a disembodiment and a disheartedness.
Mhm.
And in the shamanic world, we call it soul loss,
Right.
SOUL, soul loss.
Mhm.
And you could still have a physical womb,
Mhm.
okay, but not have access to it. You could still give birth to children, but not really have access to it. You could still be creative and paint a piece of art, but still not fully have access to it.
Mhm.
That passion for life that can cross any river, any stream, and the song ain't no mountain high enough, no
Mhm.
river deep enough to keep me from you, baby.
Mhm.
That happens because you have access to this elemental force that is generating from your womb energy.
Mhm.
And when we're cut off from it, we literally have parts of our soul missing.
Right.
And then when we have parts of our soul missing, our heart, our mind could even be really into something. We could think it, you know.
Mhm.
But there's another thing that comes that's biblical that says, as a man, and I'll say a woman or a man, thinketh in their heart, there are they also. This is where
Mhm.
you'll find them.
Mhm.
But if your womb is cut off and your power chakras are cut off and your creativity, the source of all life is cut off,
Mhm.
then your heart is also going to have some holes in it energetically. And you could have the best laid plans and thought out. But they say the greatest distance between anything is between your mind and your heart.
Mhm.
But even if it gets to your heart, if it doesn't get to your womb, you'll probably be pretty frustrated in your life and say, why do I have all these good ideas? I've got this perfect website. I've got this game plan. I've got the best PR. I've got a wonderful thing that I want to bring to the world, and I can't seem to get it out there, or I can't make this change on a personal level.
Mhm.
And it's because of this disconnect. And you've asked, I think that by now, probably we all know, hopefully we know, that what has cut us off from that has been the patriarchy.
Mhm.
And that's not just women, it's everything. It's every
Right.
plants,
Mhm.
people, animals, everything has been cut off by the negative patriarchy, which then creates a negative matriarchy.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
when mama ain't happy, nobody's
Nobody's
happy.
happy. Right. So
Okay?
what could you say to just everyday women? Because I know, I mean, I've lived that, and I know that the women that I serve, most of us are cut off. I don't see here in the Midwest, very few women do I see that are truly connected to their womb space. What's the road back from your perspective? How do you reconnect there?
Well, I think the first thing, you just said it, a lot of the women in the Midwest, I grew up in Western Kentucky,
Mhm.
not far from Nashville, about an hour and a half from Nashville. And because I started awakening 35 years ago,
Mhm.
and because I started sharing it with women in that little town, I received death threats
Wow.
on my phone. This is back in the day when your answering machine would answer. You'd have to wait for it to, you could hear your message, and then a person would leave death threats. Leave their message, and they left death threats.
Mm,
My son was in high school at the time. He had to hear that.
mm,
You know, I was a social worker and a counselor working with women primarily to help them that were abused
mhm,
or lost an addiction and abuse, usually the addiction to take care of the abuse
mhm,
feelings. And so I started being empowered more, and I started helping to empower other women. I started doing breath work with these women
mhm,
in a very patriarchal, extremely fundamentalist
mhm.
town. And I like to say here and now that true Christianity is not fundamentalist.
Right?
Doesn't belong to fundamentalists. That's
Mhm,
just a sect. There's
mhm,
a fundamentalist sect of every religion,
mhm,
and then there's the esoteric and universal sect of every religion, which really then becomes more spiritual. So I want to acknowledge that. I very much love the esoteric, beautiful parts of Christianity, like I do all so-called religions that I see all lead to one source.
right.
But in those towns and those places and around the country and in other countries, we see the oppression
Mhm,
as, even worse,
mhm,
you know,
mhm,
that in order to survive, women have had to teach their children what's acceptable in the male and female roles,
mhm,
and that's what women learn. And then if they go against that, that either Christ or God or Allah, whoever it might be, Buddha, whoever, will not approve of them.
mhm,
And in fact, they could be cast into a burning pit or fire or whatever. So
mhm.
when you threaten people, I live right next to Cherokee, and almost everybody there is Baptist, you know, because if they hadn't have become Baptist, all their children would have been killed years ago.
Right.
Okay. And so they've just learned it, but most of them don't really realize why they're Baptist.
Mhm,
They could say, well, because, this is my faith. But why? Because otherwise they were dunked until they drowned or saw God
mhm,
in Christianity. So we all know this.
mhm,
But we, if we're in a collective area where that mindset is so strong, it's very hard to step out of that because we could get death threats. We might not only get death threats, we might actually be burned at the stake again in a variety of ways. And
mhm,
we see this on the reservations
mhm,
where all the young women are disappearing. We see this all around our country,
mhm,
you know. It's not just in the South either. It's everywhere.
mhm.
So this is one of the reasons that we're cut off. And of course, the men, I'm not one of these women who's like, oh, the men.
Mhm,
Not at all. I love men. I lead men groups just for men
mhm,
to help them unplug the patriarchy
mhm,
and bring forth a healthy masculine. I call it men of heart,
mhm,
and to bring forth, and it's not about making them feminized either,
mhm, mhm,
okay? But to help them unplug from the patriarchy as much as the women, because we're all victims of this.
mhm,
And until we realize that and reclaim these parts of ourselves, we are all disempowered and we're all under its influence.
mhm. So, how would a woman begin if she was wanting to make that connection back to her womb? What would you tell her to do?
Mhm. Find other women.
Right? First,
Yeah, find other women and be careful that you don't find or align yourself into groups of women who whose um, feminine is masquerading as an empowered woman, but who is really taken on a patriarchal style of dealing with herself and other women.
mhm,
If you start feeling that something's not right, or that it's being controlling, or it's shutting you down, or you're not allowed to feel your own wisdom or your own womb, you've probably entered into a woman who's trying to teach you to be empowered, but through a very patriarchal, more, I don't like to call it masculine. I really don't, because it's not fair to masculine, but a patriarchal energy that because it's a way that she knows how to get power,
mhm,
and it's probably even well intentioned.
mhm,
I would say find women who are very comfortable, first of all, who have a wicked sense of humor,
mhm,
who are a little bit sacrilegious and irreverent,
mhm.
okay,
Right?
who are not afraid to talk about anything, who are not embarrassed that they have, this juicy yoni and sexual energy and life force energy that they get to, first of all, have, you know, forget women's rights, human rights
Mhm,
to
mhm,
be alive and to be a woman in her fullness and to have her own sovereignty.
mhm,
And if this woman is not able to connect with her own physical body,
mhm,
she doesn't have the full range of emotions and classifies anger or sadness as bad,
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
and doesn't is not allowed to have the full range of emotions. This is not an empowered woman.
Right.
An empowered woman is fully human in her humanness,
Mhm,
so that she can fully channel great spirit and the great mother
mhm,
and the archetypes and spirit guides and helpers that assist her on her journey.
mhm,
So seek out other women.
mhm.
Be a little daring,
Right.
stalk women on Facebook. If they're talking too much about love and light, and
Mhm,
they say that darkness is bad,
mhm,
you know, you have to understand that they're equating darkness
mhm,
to the atrocities we see in the world. And there's a whole lot of things that are dark, like the earth,
mhm,
soil,
mhm,
our wombs, the
mhm,
night sky,
mhm,
and the sacredness of our dark feelings, of our grief is sacred,
mhm.
you know, and our irreverent humor sometimes, shadow humor, helps us to see what we're doing that's shadow. So
Right.
those are the kind of things. Look for women who
Mhm,
are real and authentic, and begin to have daring yourself
mhm,
within that circle
mhm.
where it is safe to be real. I think that's one of the quickest ways,
Perfect.
is to find that.
Do you feel like, and I know you do, healing ourselves also helps heal the world and transform Mother Earth? And how does that work?
I see you smiling and moving around in that spiral way. That's very, women do that. We feel the spiral. You know that's how babies come out.
Right?
They spiral. They spiral, and then their head gets fixed. But even then, they turn and they
Mhm,
turn.
mhm,
Everything that comes into life, plants unfurling, everything, the stars whirling in the universe in a spiraling galaxy, everything spirals around
mhm.
and comes into this energy. And ask me the question again. I got carried away
Sure,
with your
I
spiral.
know, it's okay. So how does us healing ourselves help heal the planet?
Yes, yes. Ah, for one thing, we cannot separate ourselves, and all the indigenous cultures around the world have taught me that.
Mhm,
Whether I've been in the Andes and in Peru, whether I've been in Mexico, whether I've been in Costa Rica, whether I've been in Egypt, Mother Africa, whether I've been with Native Americans in this country, all the shamanic people, all the medicine people that I've worked with, and the women especially, but all have said, we are not separate from the earth.
right.
It's kind of like, for me, like, duh. Like, I mean, we eat from the earth, we sleep from the earth, we breathe from the earth, all our clothes are made from the earth, everything we have. You know, everything, even the plastic that we don't want in our world
Right.
is made from the earth. All things that we can see, everything is made from the earth.
Mhm.
Everything. So we can't exist on this planet. And again, like, really, do we not know this? But
Right.
apparently we don't for the climate deniers.
Mhm.
Okay. We cannot exist on this planet unless we find harmony with our inner water, earth, fire, and air,
Mhm.
and our outer earth, fire, water, air. If
Mhm.
we don't find a harmony as within, so without, we will not continue on this as a species, and it will we'll take a lot of other species with us.
Right.
That is a fact. That
Mhm.
is not just science, it's common sense.
Mhm.
People say, I believe in God, I don't believe in science, or I
Mhm.
believe in science, I don't believe in God. I don't care what you believe in. It doesn't matter to me if you believe in science or God or both.
Mhm.
It's common sense where I come from,
Right.
where I grew up in Kentucky, and if
Mhm.
we didn't plant things in the earth when I was a little girl, we didn't eat.
Right.
If we didn't have chickens, we didn't have eggs.
Mhm.
If we didn't take care of the things that were feeding us, if we didn't take care of the well
Mhm.
to make sure that when it rained that the waters got into it, that it was
Mhm.
purified,
Mhm.
we didn't have water to drink.
Mhm.
So if we didn't have firewood, we didn't have heat.
Mhm.
Okay. So we're so modern, we
Mhm.
think.
Mhm.
We've gotten so far away from the elements in our lives in some ways
Mhm.
that we can it's kind of like ignoring, not going home to see your parents for Christmas or calling home to your grandparents. You see, I'll just throw this in here. I study the Egyptian world very deeply. It's one of my main cosmologies that I love to work with,
Mhm.
having been there and taking people there. And um, in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, before the gods were gods, the gods were called Neteru, Neteru. They were the great Neteru.
Mhm.
And they were four things: water, earth, fire, and air. That
Wow.
your great and my great grandmama and granddaddies
Mhm.
were water, earth, fire, and air.
Mhm.
And those great netters over time became nature. Netter became nature.
Mhm. Mhm.
And nature nurtured human beings.
Mhm.
So the word nurture and nature both are derived from neteru.
Wow.
And we heal and we nurture ourselves daily through nature. And when we don't do that and we cut ourselves off from the shamanic world, we cut our womb off, our womb wisdom, we cut off everything.
Mhm.
And we're living out of body and we can no longer hear her wisdom.
Mhm.
And when we can't hear the great mother's wisdom coming through our bodies
Mhm.
and through nature, I don't, I'm still an optimistic person, but we are doomed if we don't start to listen.
I agree. I'm right there with you. I'm a very optimistic person, and if we don't start to listen, that's why we're doing the summit. Basically,
Yes.
wake
And
people
thank you for this.
up.
Thank you for listening to your womb wisdom to create this.
Well, I have wanted to. I learned from many other women, and I'll say to people, you should. I've referred people to you. I've referred people to many people on this summit, knowing full well that I'll give them the information and that's never going to happen. They're just never going to, the paths are never going to cross. But what I'm seeing as all of you begin together is that this is a great way to just give it all to everyone.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's my goal. So what how would you describe what can happen when we connect our human wombs not only to the earth realm and nature but to the cosmic womb? So I want to just preface this with the fact that right now we're in this window of time of 70 to 144 years where we are right. The earth is in that alignment that only happens every 27,000 years. And so we are right in the pocket to be directly affected by the black hole or the cosmic womb. So what happens when, just simple little old me or any woman connects her womb to that womb?
Watch out.
Right?
There's so much to say about that. One of the things that comes to me is there's the old saying, I like kind of like the old cliches and the old sayings that, hell hath no fury like a woman.
Right.
Okay, when she's been done wrong. Okay, that's why they burned us at the stakes. Women, are too emotional, they're too powerful, they have all these energies, and we call it witch. And of course, witch comes from the word weird, and weird comes from the word wise. So when you're witchy and weird, it really means you're wise. That's where the words come from. And so as we connect back to this, if you will, the big mama, the big archetypal mama, the one who said to the other energy, enticed the other energy in the cosmos, come hither, okay, and let's come together and create this form. You see, in the biblically, in the Christian Judeo-Christian Bible, it says, that God created things and said, "Let there be light." But what I think happened is that Mama said, "Let there be life." And after she said, "Let there be life," then the lights went off. And the guy said, "Whoa, let there be light."
I love that.
I see the light. I see the light. And it was truly the shamanic Big Bang, that created that. So energetically, when these bigger cosmic forces, at least from the Earth's point of view of what's happening astrologically, if you were on a different planet, it would be a whole different cosmology, right? But from our point of view here, our sacred point of view, as Grandmother Twyla would call it, everybody has a sacred point of view, just sharing mine, that astrologically, when we come back around to these places where our own environment has been set up perfectly on this, there's no coincidence that we're on this blue star planet that we're on, orbiting through space, and that the particular planets, stars, other solar systems, other galaxies, as we go further out and around, are influencing us in the way that it is. And now they speak about, my son's very much a scientist in many ways, and he talks about that they've discovered what they believe is a parallel universe that's exactly like this one, but except it's moving from what's already happened backwards.
Wow. Interesting.
Scientists actually believe this is true. Many scientists believing in the parallel universe, that it's a duplicate of this one, except moving backwards. I feel that sometimes. I know my other self is there doing that. In other words, anybody's ever seen the movie Benjamin Button, it would be like that. It would be starting there and going back that direction. Have we ever thought? And it's just that we have another self that's doing that. I find that fascinating. So really, birth and death is not, except in our human form, as giving birth to a child, is really not a linear process at all. It's a powerful, spiraling galaxies, cosmoses, universe. This is all very shamanic, of course. And no, I'm not smoking or doing anything else today. I'm just breathing and being with you. Excited. We don't need it. We've got it. Anyway, with this force, imagine that if we're set up on purpose this way, and for these things to begin to align in this way, there's something magic is afoot. And if Mama is coming back just to check on the kids, let's just put it this way. My sense is that she'll straighten things out.
Mine too.
you know?
So,
And we better be like the kids that say, "Oh my God, mom's coming home. Put out the cigarettes, hide the liquor,
right.
you know,
Clean up the house.
clean up the house, wash the sheets, for God's sake."
Right.
You know. So yes, I think that we are in for some major cosmic help,
Mhm.
not punishment.
Right.
You know, we can interpret when somebody comes back and sets boundaries with us, or tells us no. We can feel that we're being mistreated or punished. But no is just as important as yes.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if you don't have a no, then everything's a yes, which means nothing's a yes.
Right. Eventually, it's all no if you do that.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
Do you think men have energetic wombs?
Oh, I know they do.
Mhm.
I know they do. I have met so many beautiful men. I call them men of heart in my lifetime. And, um, I've in my life, like everyone, I've had negative experiences with both men and women, you
Mhm.
know,
Right.
and some of that had to do with me and some of that had to do with them,
Mhm.
part of my shadow, part of their shadow, those kinds
Mhm.
of things. There's always a shadow between people. And of
Mhm.
course, the closer we get to people, the more we know their shadow as much as their light. So,
Right. Mhm.
but I've known so many men that I have loved as friends, and also I've been married twice, and I've also been in a couple of other major relationships as an adult woman. And in those relationships, I would say every one of those men had very powerful womb energy.
Mhm.
Every one of them,
Mhm.
every one of them did, and does.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that, the four main men I've been in relationship with in my adult life have all been very highly creative men.
Mhm.
Um, they've all really loved women, sometimes too much,
Mhm. Right.
you know. But they've loved the feminine.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes they've been afraid of my feminine because she's so fiery and whatever.
Mhm.
You could kind of guess that.
Mhm.
But they've also been very attracted to it.
Mhm.
Because that tells them I think that it was I think that my feminine helped bring forth theirs
Sure.
because
Absolutely.
I could also step into my masculine.
Mhm.
So it gave them the opportunity to not always have to be in what was considered the more masculine, or what we think of as more linear, and
Mhm.
to come into the more womb space.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that men and women both that are part of our journey to wholeness
Mhm.
is to learn to create that sacred marriage of
Mhm.
our masculine, feminine, of all opposites, light, dark,
Mhm.
yin, yang, all of that,
Mhm.
and not put it all on the other person to carry it,
Mhm.
or put it all on ourselves to carry it in a relationship.
Right. Right.
I think that's very unhealthy.
Mhm.
I think that sometimes it's just, in a feminine body, I'm probably going to be more feminine,
Mhm.
maybe, maybe not. Things are changing when there's 16 different identified genders now, you
Right.
know, you know. So, and honoring that,
Mhm.
I think it's healthy,
Mhm.
and I think it's a way for people to begin to break out of the stereotypes.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
you
I
know. So I
totally.
honor that.
Mhm.
But yes, I think that that if we were having this conversation 10 years from now, you and I would probably wouldn't even be saying about the do men have this and women. We'd name off all the different. Do they have this? Did they? And we'd
Mhm.
have to go through all of them and say,
Mhm.
fine. We just go. The answer is yes.
Right. Absolutely.
We've all we've all got this.
Mhm. So how can we learn? We're moving towards the end of our talk today. Two things. Number one, how can we learn to listen to that womb wisdom? And then if you wanted to share something with women everywhere about our topic, what would it be?
Well, I live my life in ceremony.
Mhm.
I am not just shamanic on the weekend or at a workshop. I
Right.
live on top of a mountain and I live in nature.
Mhm.
My home is my temple. I don't have it shut off in a back room that's hidden from anybody that visits me. The
Mhm.
workmen that come here with their boots on from the mountains come in and go, "Wow, what's that?" And you
Mhm.
must travel a lot. They look around. I am who I am wherever I am.
Mhm.
So, to me, embodying for me the archetype of shamanic consciousness
Mm-hmm.
is my solution.
Mm-hmm.
It is my answer to wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means, embodying shamanic consciousness, is being who I am,
Mm-hmm.
wherever I am, whoever I'm with, in my truth. Now, I don't have to stick things in people's face
Mm-hmm.
if it's not healthy for me or healthy for them, or it's too risky or whatever. Or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to modify and change myself around to make other people feel comfortable is dishonoring their ability to change and grow and open,
Mm-hmm.
and mine as well, and my courage to be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So to learn how to be ourselves and to embrace our elemental nature and to live more in nature. If you live in the city, try to open your window, grow plants in your house,
Mm-hmm.
get a cat, do some close to nature, close to animals. I have goats, chickens, 3 dogs, a cat, and I have a snake that lives under my house. I have,
Nice.
live in nature as close to it. Get out in nature and get out in nature and be quiet in nature. It will speak to you. Nature will nurture you, and your grandparents will meet you there
Mm-hmm.
through the bones and the blood of the earth and the waters.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the most important thing of all for me is breath.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned a long time ago, having been a therapist for many, many years, since I was 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
working with every population from psychosis to addiction to, dual diagnosis to women's groups, men's groups, adolescents groups,
Mm-hmm.
depression groups, on and on and on and on it goes with the
Mm-hmm.
multitude of people that I've worked with, young mothers at risk,
Mm-hmm.
infants and their babies, all of those things. The thing that unites everyone on this planet is that everyone has to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
People can eat different foods, they can do all kind of different things, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone has to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You can hold your breath for a few minutes. Grandmother Twyla told me she would argue with her grandfather, who was a shaman, when he told her she was going to do this or do that or whatever. And she
Mm-hmm.
said she was like 4 and she'd hold her breath and say, I'm just not going to breathe. And then she'd have to breathe. And then he'd laugh,
Mm-hmm.
We all have to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is connected by the breath. And everywhere I go, I do shamanic breath work with people all around the world, in Peru and Egypt, wherever we go.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone breathes in the same language. And even if they don't speak the same language with words, when people breathe and they sit in circle with one another, even if they're speaking, if they're saying the inflections, what they draw on a piece of paper, the healing that happens, the holding, the body work, all the things that we incorporate into this method that I use, I call it ceremony, this spiritual ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
is universal. And because Kathy, I do my best to gather the best tools possible.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give people the premier experience
Mm-hmm.
of coming home to themselves and awakening this womb wisdom within us all.
Mm-hmm.
This innate wisdom that we all have. To me, I haven't found anything else that does it better. And I know there's, plant medicines, there's all kinds of things. I've done most of the things
Mm-hmm.
that there are to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, I still look around. And if and when I find something better, you'll hear it from me.
Right.
Until then, I'm keeping on with breathing the world.
I agree. Star Wolf, I've had the wonderful pleasure to get to be in one of your circles when you did the workshop and you did shamanic breath work with people. And I totally agree with you that it's one of the most powerful, transformative tools anyone can use. So can you speak into how people could avail themselves of this type of work? I mean, how do you offer this to the world?
There's a whole lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so excited that you've asked me this question,
I know.
because I used to beg people to breathe. I used to go around, I felt like a beggar on the side of the street, like, will you please breathe? Alms for the breath work or whatever, And I literally paid my patients. I would say, I'll feed you, come to my house. If you'll come, I'll breathe you.
Mhm,
And that's how I started out 35 years ago,
mhm,
breathing people in different forms of breath work. But I've now been doing shamanic breath work. It was trademarked, actually. We're trademarked and for 22 years this year, March 21st. But before it was trademarked, I was doing it several years before. So somewhere around 30 years, I've been doing this ceremony as often as possible with thousands and thousands of people around the world.
mhm,
And it took a while for people to get over the word shamanic. It scared them. They
mhm,
didn't understand it. And I had needed to explain that we are all indigenous to the earth. Grandmother Twyla taught me this.
mhm,
Indigenous means native to an area. Well, we all live on earth. We're
mhm,
all native. We're indigenous to this area. We are indigenous to the earth. And
mhm,
that's not to discredit people who have more native, indigenous, what we traditionally think it as roots. But it's very important to acknowledge them. But
mhm,
it's also important to remember that every one of us
mhm,
comes from lost tribes.
mhm,
And every one of us has in our body a memory of being in ceremony in the elements with fires and water and wind and earth and breathing and giving birth to our children and breathing and helping the old or the sick to die through breathing and
mhm,
breathing and sending their breath. We have used this breath for healing and cleansing and purifying our bodies, for visioning and going on journeys long before people knew how to eat plants that
mhm,
made them do that.
mhm,
This is a powerful place that we can all gather together in ceremony. I do it in bookstores. I
mhm,
do it in auditoriums. I've done it in schools. I've
mhm,
done it with kids, with elderly, with
mhm.
my late husband that passed 6 years ago. It was the last thing he did was shamanic breath work in my arms as he was dying, was
Mhm,
he was breathing, and he left on
mhm,
that day. I gave him permission while he was doing that to go
mhm,
and to be free. And I've helped bring a couple of my grandchildren into the world through having the mama breathe.
mhm,
So I'm just putting this out that there's so many ways to do this. Now, on a very practical level,
mhm,
you can go to shamanicbreathwork.org and
mhm,
look up on our website the events.
mhm,
This year, we will be in Bali for 4 weeks
mhm,
at a huge festival, breathing hundreds and hundreds of people. We're
mhm,
also doing a 2-week training there.
mhm,
Then we come back, we go to the Gathering of the Shamans in Sedona
mhm,
with the Don Miguel Ruiz family there. We breathe a lot of people at that big conference gathering.
mhm,
We do a 2-week training here in my temple
mhm,
in May.
mhm,
We go to England, we
mhm.
go to Iceland, and we go to Egypt this year. So,
Amazing.
and I have other smaller workshops,
Mhm,
but if you're interested in any of those, but beyond me, we have trained so many people to do this work now. Some that you'll even have onto your program here, other people that you can find a shamanic breathwork facilitator near you.
right? You sure can. You sure can.
They almost everywhere in this country. And the last time I counted, we have shamanic breathwork facilitators in 22 countries and
Amazing.
and several congregations.
Mhm,
And so, so you can come to be with me. I would love to have you,
mhm,
but if you can't get to be with me, we
mhm,
have people. I'll just say this last thing. We did our last training in Teotihuacan, Mexico in December, and we had 42 people go through the training from
mhm,
15 countries, 7 different languages,
mhm.
from ages 21 to 71,
Wow.
and all gender types.
Mhm,
So you can
mhm.
find us.
It's out
And
there.
even on our website, we have a map where you can look up breathwork facilitators. So,
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I really wanted to make sure people knew that because, and I'll just plug you again. This is one of the most powerful, transformative work that I've ever done for myself personally. And I encourage anyone on the call to really avail themselves of the work that you do, Star Wolf. And I know that we're going to give a link for your free gift. I believe that was a meditation that we can do along with you that would probably give us a little taste of that or flavor of what you do. So I encourage everyone to avail themselves of that. Star Wolf, I'd just love to thank you for being with us today and for all that you've shared. You're a very powerful teacher and a very big voice for the shamanic work that we do here. So what was it, that a powerful catalyst of accelerated consciousness?
Woo!
Didn't know that before, we do know it now. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you again for doing this. And I have to laugh when I hear my bio. I think, I think all my ex-boyfriends wrote that about me, a force to be reckoned with. So,
I love it.
but thank you so much for doing this, and it's so needed, and it's right on time.
Mhm.
And I just honor you. I honor what you're doing, and all the other amazing women. And let's all keep breathing and waking this mama back up inside of all of us, men and women alike. Because as soon as we turn onto our breath, we turn onto our womb wisdom,
Mhm.
and it comes back. And the soul loss can then become soul return. It
Yes.
comes home.
That gives me chills. Yes, for sure. Aho, thank you so much.